How does Mary Jane have kids with another man just 6 months after she was with Peter Parker? Our story begins with Spider-Man's battle with Webb, the powerful Mayan god hell-bent on destroying Spider-Man. At the very last minute, MJ detonated a multi-dimensional traveling device, chopping the god in half and sending Peter back to Earth 616. But she was trapped in this universe. She sacrificed herself to save the person she loved the most. Tears fell down MJ's cheeks as she watched Peter go back home. Neither had any idea when or if they'd ever see each other again. Suddenly, the portal disappears. Peter is gone. She falls to the floor, crying his name. But Paul, the man who she'd eventually marry, comforts her. She did the right thing. Webb is dead. They're free of danger. But now what? Elsewhere, Benjamin Rabin, one of Webb's accolades, screams that his god is dead. Rabin carves a symbol into the floor, proclaiming that Mary Jane will accept her chains so that he may be reborn as a god. One day later, Paul has his bags packed and is prepared to get moving. Webb's followers know where they are. It's not safe for long, but Mary Jane stands motionless. Peter is gone. If you want to survive, you have to. Mary Jane shuts him up with a slap to the face. Paul doesn't know Peter. He'd do anything to come back for Mary Jane. He won't leave her here. Paul remains silent for a moment, watching MJ grieve on the floor. She finds a piece of Peter's suit on the floor, clenching it tightly. A month later, Mary Jane has started to acclimate to her new situation. She walks into their hideout wielding a massive futuristic gun, having just scared off a few intruders. Meanwhile, Paul types away at his device, combining symbology to create a massive amount of power. Mary Jane looks at his design. One symbol sort of looks like a 7. It's kind of like a slot machine, right? Her eyes grow sad as she turns away. Made me think of hitting the jackpot. MJ walks away. Paul turns for a second, but returns to his work. 3 months into Mary Jane's interdimensional adventure, she's gone full Sarah Connor, complete with cargo pants, a bandana, and a mean look on her face. She and Paul successfully fought off the psychotic Rabin, though they took a few injuries as well. He took a shot to the shoulder, she got hit in the leg. They'll talk it off, but they have bigger issues. Rabin knows they're alive, knows they killed his god, and knows where they live. We can't stay here. A week later, the new duo are trekking through a city during a rainstorm. Paul stops her, motioning for her to keep quiet. Above, monsters soar through the air. Mary Jane pauses, eyeballing the creepy-looking beast and wondering when Peter will come back to save her. What's the holdup, Tiger? Another 3 weeks have gone by. Mary Jane and Paul are starting to become closer, friendlier. When you're stuck in a dystopia with a single person, that tends to happen. Winter has come, so they scavenge for canned food. They hear a sound from inside the shelter. They carefully enter, then burst in with guns drawn. Don't move! It's just 2 kids. 2 young snot-nosed kids, Owen and Rami. Do you know the Scribble Man? Paul looks less than thrilled. He knows they have to help these children, so they do. They travel together, staying in a tent outside the forest. A scream emits from that tent. Don't touch me! He's coming! Owen's having a nightmare. This world is filled with terrifying things for young eyes. Mary Jane tries to comfort him, but he's inconsolable. If she touches him, the Scribble Man will get her too. In his flailing, Owen elbows MJ on the nose, sending her backwards. His little sister, Rami, lays Owen's head on her lap and calms him back to sleep. Mary Jane joins Paul by the fireside, where he has a warm cup of coffee for her. Paul scratches some designs for a new lab as they discuss the kids. They've seen things. Both of them. Their parents probably didn't just run off. These kids have been through a lot, but Paul is a realist. Their little setup here isn't designed for 4 people. Lugging around kids makes everything harder. I'm not leaving them, Paul. If they're too much trouble for you, you can go. Paul insists he didn't mean that. He would never say that. Mary Jane sheds another tear, a lot of that going around recently, and says she knows. They finish their coffees in silence as the snow continues to pour down. After a month, they've started to become like a little family out here in the wilderness. As Paul works on building the lab, MJ tries to feed Owen. Owen tells her that the Scribble Man doesn't come anymore. The nightmares are gone. Is that because of Mary Jane? MJ stumbles over over her words. She doesn't know what to say, but she tells him that she will never let anyone hurt little Owen. For the first time, the two are starting to bond. Owen gives MJ, his protector, a big hug. After a while, they truly did become a family. They laughed, played, loved each other. The kids even started going by MJ's last name. Mary Jane loved these kids as her own, and the kids loved their mom. As for Mary Jane and Paul, they started to fall in their own kind of love. Most importantly, they protected the children. Mary Jane became a warrior, using Paul's symbology devices to destroy anything that threatened her family. And when the monsters were gone, they lived, for the most part, in peace. Years had gone by. The kids had grown taller, and Paul had turned into a corny sitcom dad. They'd even found themselves a nice little home. As Mary Jane finished up the pasta, Paul told Owen to sit down for dinner. "What does the Scribble Man want? Nightmares again?" It's been a while since Owen said that name. "I don't like how he's looking at me." Mary Jane turns, facing her worst nightmare come true. The Scribble Man, standing in her kitchen. "The Scarlet Woman is bound. She will feed the blade of decay." Raven, the Scribble Man, had found them. He's found Mary Jane, here to sacrifice her, making himself a god. MJ launches the steaming pasta into Raven's face, but he stops it with a word. Paul rushes the kids to the safe room. Raven keeps saying the Sunblood has returned. The Sunblood, that's what Wave used to call Spider-Man, but he hasn't been on this world for years. Paul doesn't care about Raven's ramblings. He cares about protecting the ones he loves. Paul tackles Raven right through a wall. "You defile my ceremony!" Raven uses his power to thrust some of the debris towards Paul, injuring him. Meanwhile, Mary Jane rushes to put on a new device Paul had constructed, one based on something Mary Jane had said years earlier. "I've got bad news for you, jerk! You're about to hit the jackpot!" The device glows with power, then fizzles out. Raven laughs. Whoever built that must be bad at math. "No, it's just getting warmed up." The machine glows once more, even brighter than the last time. This machine is based on random chance, randomly selecting 3 symbols that power this world, like a slot machine. It fires, covering Raven in cotton candy? That's the downside of leaving your weaponry up to random chance. Raven, covered in sticky pink candy, launches MJ across the room, right on top of Paul. "Cotton candy? It's based on chance. Trade-offs for everything." Mary Jane prepares for a second attack, charging the device as Raven steps closer. He menacingly threatens to plunge his blade into her heart, and he will become her god. "Try it, mother—" Suddenly, there was light, a bright light raining from the sky. Mary Jane sees a face she hasn't seen in a long time, one she'd never forget. "Peter, get away from her!" Spider-Man attacks Raven, saving Mary Jane. Just like the old days, just like always. Energy oozes from Raven's body. He's stronger than ever, stronger than last time. There's no way Peter can defeat him. Suddenly, Raven stops. He clenches his now bleeding chest where a blade had impaled him. Peter couldn't beat Raven on his own, but he did the next best thing, distracting him so Paul could kill him, ending this nightmare. "Just as my god, I am now dead." Raven collapses to the floor, dead. "Works for me." Mary Jane can't believe it. It's really Peter. After all this time, so much has happened. The two share an emotional hug. Peter leans in for a long-awaited kiss, but she stops him. You've been gone a long time. A lot has changed." Paul interrupts them, answering one question and adding a whole lot more. "The kids are scared." Who are they?" Mary Jane tells the truth. They are her family. Peter's face goes white. This was not exactly the rescue mission he'd expected, but at least Mary Jane is safe. Peter brought Mary Jane, Paul, and the kids back to Earth 616, where Paul now sits in a hospital. Mary Jane finishes up telling Peter what happened, how she ended up with Paul. For Peter, he was gone for the blink of an eye. For Mary Jane, it was 4 years. 4 years of thinking she would never see Peter again. 4 years to fall in love. Peter explains that from the second he disappeared, he never stopped trying to get her back. Just a month ago, they were going to move in together. MJ asked him, but Peter was too big of a mess. MJ still remembers her response. "When are you not a mess?" Peter's mind is racing. Then she says the one thing that completely breaks his heart. "I'm sorry, Peter. I'm not leaving him." Peter stands and leaves the hospital, letting Mary Jane watch over her new husband as he heals. The doctor explains that his liver got nicked, but they expect a full recovery. Mary, but the doctor is interrupted. "I was hoping you could clear a few things up." As Peter somberly walks home, he's stopped by the Fantastic Four. In his rush to find Mary Jane, he went on the run from the police, stole a mini fusion reactor from Reed Richards, and punched Captain America in the face. Long day. The Fantastic Four just want their reactor back. Peter isn't in the talking mood. He tells them it's busted and he just wants to go home. Johnny Storm, one of Peter's oldest friends, gets in Peter's face. "You'd think that now your girlfriend's back, you'd be in a better—" Peter cuts him off with an uppercut right to the flaming jaw. Thing steps in, but the angry Peter just fights back. Mr. Fantastic wraps him up with his elastic arms, but Peter continues to flail like a ticked-off child. Peter tries to punch Reed, but Sue stops it with a force field. "How about we stop punching things before they start punching back?" But with the day Peter's had, "I want someone to hit me back." Johnny obliges, throwing a blast of fire at him. "That's enough. Let him go." Captain America intervenes, shutting down the little dispute. Cap explains that he just talked to MJ. Cap says they would have helped if he asked, but Peter says they wouldn't be fast enough. "I wasn't fast enough either. Just go, please." Mary Jane told Cap everything. Cap, the literal man out of time, knows better than most what Peter's going through. He tells the Fantastic Four to clear out, give him some space. So Peter is left alone, as he always is. Just another tragedy in the story of Peter Parker's life.